Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be going over a little project that I've been working on. Now this project, I've already did one, so I wanted to make sure everything worked out good before I did a video, and I went ahead and replicated it. Now this one here is going to be for my Dynamic, and what this is a chrome moly axle, 14 millimeters in diameter, 8 millimeters ID. This is hardened steel, so the stuff you need to use to tool this is going to be high-speed steel with cobalt or high-speed steel. Cobalt's obviously going to be a little bit better, so I would recommend that. Some of that stuff can be a little tricky to find, certain sizes, so the internet is your best option. I bought everything that I have off AliExpress, and I am very pleased with all of it. If you know anything about FX liners are not a true 8 millimeter, they are 7.9 to about 8.2, which means this is not going to go straight into this without opening this up. Now, when we find one of these, this is a 8.5 millimeter in diameter by 450 millimeters long, and this opened this thing up pretty easily. The thing you're going to run into is while you're drilling this thing, bringing it out, drilling aluminum in, taking it back out, you're going to build up a lot of friction in here. So you need to pay attention to that. You know, touch it every now and again and make sure this thing is not overheating. You don't want to run the risk of it warping or potentially getting it too hot where you bind your drill bit up in there and it gets stuck or seizes it and you got to throw it away. So keep that in mind. You may have to do a little bit, let it cool down. It really didn't take that long. I didn't have to, but it did get, pretty warm, but I kept an eye on it. You will need a 1/2 by 20 tap, and I believe the drill bit is a 2764 if I remember right, or 2964, I can't quite remember. And you will need a 13 by 1. The 13 by 1 is going to be for your transfer port. This needs a 1532, and this tap here is made by Yamawa, however you pronounce that, but this tap is amazing. Again, I got this off AliExpress, and even after cutting all that on the first one and this one, didn't even knock the finish off of this yet, and it cuts like butter. So I would highly recommend this if you guys get one. I'll throw the links up there so you guys can find them. Now, when you're doing these, you're going to have to cut this thing down from 700 millimeter to 650 millimeter to make it the same size as the standard FX barrel housing for 700. If you're going to 600, obviously knock 50 millimeters off that and you'll be at a 550. One side is going to be for your transfer port, and that will be the 13 by 1. And the liner lock will be the 1/2 by 20. So when we get this all put in and tested, and make sure it's holding there, because that's one thing you're going to want to do when you get these. You're going to want to check over both ends real good, just in case there's any kind of nicks or gouges. You may find that you want to designate one side for the block of the rifle and one side for the barrel shroud, just in case there's any kind of marring on the outside of the finish that may jeopardize a sealing, a sealing issue with the O-ring. So again, keep that in mind. These things are pretty easy to machine. You're definitely going to probably need access to a lathe. I'm sure somebody could probably do it without one, but the taps would be the taps really are critical on this, because you do not have hardly any material to thread. So you need to make sure that those taps go in completely true. Otherwise, you run the risk of damaging the threads, or having your bit misaligned in there, and causing your transfer port to want to go in on angle or cross threads. So this thing, this axle, I think cost me right around 50 bucks when I bought them. Pretty cheap. So it's a cool little project to do. I did, however, jack this one up a little bit, but the good thing is my plenum nut is going to be about right here. So where I spun this around in the, I didn't tighten it down much in the lathe, so it did spun around, kind of jacked it up, but I'm not worried about it because it is, you know, out of the, out of any area that I would risk, you know, having an issue with an O-ring. I probably have, I'm gonna guess probably another 60 bucks in tools to do this project, but I've already used them on other projects, so I can essentially just chalk them up on the last one, and I'm 50 bucks deep on this next one. It's pretty easy. Once I make sure the thing's gonna seal up good, then I'll take it back apart and I'll go ahead and epoxy the liner in here, and I'll get it all glued together, and then I'll make it permanent. But I'm not going to put this in until I make sure this thing is sealing up with the O-rings. I definitely don't want to risk a liner in this until I know it seals up. With these, I have had one jack up on me, and I had to cut it all back apart after everything epoxied back together. But where the block stabilizer is for this, there's an O-ring in there, and on some of these barrels, just from this thing sitting in there and bouncing around, it'll wear the finish off. And if it wears the finish off, you can break your seal and the thing will leak right out the barrel. And you can kind of see it here on this one here where that plenum nut used to be. You can see the O-ring starting to wear a groove in there. That's one thing about these that can throw you a curveball when it comes to leaking, because you would not think that just that little bit of bluing being gone can cause a leak, but it absolutely can. That one cost me quite a bit of money to try and diagnose. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and get this thing locked up, tested, and we're going to see if this thing will hold air. If it does, we'll get this thing glued in and tested and get some groups on paper. I'll see you in a while. We are moving on to the last step. I am pleased to say that this barrel housing did hold pressure and did not leak. So that will push us to get this thing cleaned up and get these parts epoxied together and make it permanent. So the first step we're going to have to do, we're going to have to get this barrel housing out, and we need to make sure that this gun is fully degassed when we do it. So you can see the bottle is off of this gun, and the plenum gauge and the bottle gauge were already reading 0 before we got there. I have already cleaned this barrel housing after I got done drilling it out. So all I'm going to do is run a bunch of dry patches through with my patch worm and pick up any leftover debris or gunk in there that I didn't get when I initially cleaned it. And I'm only going to do that until these dry patches come out nice and white and there's no signs of any gunk in there left over. Once we do this, we're going to go ahead and get this stuff out to the garage, and that's where we're going to mix up our epoxy concoction and finalize this stuff. We're not going to do that indoors because those fumes are pretty potent and they tend to linger for a very long time. We're at the final part of this video, and we got the barrel ready. It has been epoxied in, and when you're doing these, you want to make damn sure the product you're getting is going to allow you to have ample time to be able to get this where you want it so that it can cure. If you get fast set and you don't catch it fast enough, you could find yourself in a real pickle. That is the main reason why I didn't get to make a video on this, because I didn't realize that I did get to fast set. So luckily I caught it pretty quick, so I was able to still move fast enough to get everything set and right where I wanted it before it starts setting up. So keep that in mind, because you spend a lot of time on this stuff. You do not want it all to go to waste or have to try and take it apart and remachine it, because if you let this stuff go too long, you're not getting the pieces back out. This is a permanent setup now. That liner is not coming out of there. I could get transfer port off, I could get the liner lock off, but the liner is not coming out. Now this is 14 millimeters OD, and it is also 8.5 millimeter ID. So we have plenty of room in there to get that liner in there without it being too sloppy. And slide that baby right in there. Now, another thing about this is this one is currently coming in at 1 pound, 8.5 ounces. So it's pretty damn stout. If you've never taken these off, if you've never taken your barrel out, again, you gotta make sure this thing is degassed. If you're washing it, you probably already have, but you do have 2 screws on the side, a little grub screw here, one on the opposite side and one on top. There's flats and a opening on your transfer port. The opening goes straight to the bottom and your flats obviously go on the sides. So I usually spin mine all the way around so I can see the port on the side, and then I'll directly turn that straight down until I see my first flat. And once I see that, I'll go ahead and start tightening this thing down. Now the brass piece on the back, you're gonna see a little lip sticking out. That little lip needs to protrude off the gun, and the flat spot around it needs to be flush with the block. So, and what I like to do, if I can find it, I like to do 1 screw at a time, and I'll kind of wiggle this around and make sure I'm in a perfect flat spot, and then I'll go ahead and lock them down pretty decent. Don't take much, so don't get too crazy. You get those 2. This one does still have this clamp on it for the plenum. It's eventually going to break off, I guarantee it, because I broke every one of these things off, and it's just normal. The new ones don't even come with this, so if you do take this apart and you break it, don't even worry about it. Just shave it all the way off and move on, because the new ones don't come with it and it's not needed. Most all of us don't even have them on our guns anymore for that exact reason. I think, see, this baby is looking pretty sweet. I am very impressed with how this thing turned out. Slide that baby on there. Now the cool thing about these deals here, your shroud nut and also your valve housing, is it's got holes in it. So what you can do, if you have a standard set of Allen wrenches, you don't need any special tools. You can stick a couple of them in there and then stick one crossways, and you can use that as a kind of makeshift little spanner wrench. So just stick them in the holes and stick another one in between them and just twist them, and you can open this stuff up without having to get any fancy tools out. Now, we've got that part. Slide the shroud back on. I'll be honest with you, I'm pretty happy to get this thing done and play around. I wanted a Dynamic for a while just for the added air volume. I honestly am disgusted by the bottle look of them, but we got some ideas. Another company is working on something to make this thing much better looking. This is a aftermarket one that came with this gun. Guy traded it. A guy out in California that makes them. It's pretty decent looking. It's pretty adjustable. Not bad. But I like the more rifle stock type look to these guns. Guess that's why I really like the Pantheras. Crank this thing up. Give her some juice. And that's it. This thing officially has a new bull barrel installed, and we're ready to get it tested out and see how this thing is going to do. Anyways, you guys got any questions, feel free to ask. I'll answer them the best I can. I'll put some links in the description on the parts I ordered, where I got them. And I do know that FX is coming out with a bull barrel. It looks pretty sweet, but you could definitely make your own pretty easily if you have access to a few tools as well as a lathe. You can definitely save a lot of money and make the same thing. But anyways, I'll get this thing put together, or slap a scope on it at least. I might even swap out this probe while I'm thinking about it. And we'll try and get some videos recorded, and I'll let you guys see how this thing groups. Till then, I'll see you next one.